Greetings, President Scales, faculty and staff, friends and family, fellow members of the class of 2019, and welcomed guests. And of course, I can't fail to acknowledge the Lord who has afforded me this opportunity and deserves all of the glory. My twin sister who is here tonight and endured 4 years of restlessness because oftentimes the lights were on at 2 o'clock in the morning, but a paper was due, so you know how that goes. Sorry again, she's standing right there. My mom who gave birth to me, but also tried her best to make sure that I got some sleep after an all-nighter by yelling across the apartment that I was sleeping. And last but not least, Vince, who for 2 years straight would strictly address me as valedictorian, even before it came to fruition, and even more so since he heard the news. As I stand before you now, I know that most of you have one of two questions. You're either asking yourself, who is she? And yes, I did go here all 4 years. Or is she gonna take forever? Or maybe even both. Well, to answer the first question, hi, my name is Cassandra Menard, and I have the privilege of addressing the esteemed class of 2019. And I know that this is a moment of celebration, but if you would allow me, I'd like to speak to you about trusting God in every circumstance, not just moments like these. As I look around the room, I am overwhelmed as I reflect on the moments that I have shared with many of you. For some of us, we only exchange polite smiles in the hallways or the same row in a required class that we wouldn't have taken otherwise. You know the ones I'm talking about. But for others of you, we have shared the same stage, intimate secrets, and even overt frustrations like, why does the semester seem to drag on and only speed up when final assignments are due, and they're all due at the same time? Well, in the same way, as I scan the room and appreciate all the familiar faces and fond memories, I can't neglect to mention someone I don't see. And some may know where I'm going with this, and some may not. So please allow me to take a brief moment to honor the memory of a student who is no longer with us, but who without a doubt has positively impacted everyone he encountered, Ralph Beck. I met Ralph my very first year at Nyack, and I must say that he is still one of the most pleasant people that I have met on campus. Literally, from the beginning to the end, he was always smiling and laughing, making others laugh, including professors during serious moments in class, and just encouraging those around him. Ralph often talked about the future with his signature Ralph Beck grin plastered across his face, and one thing that he was most looking forward to was graduating. That's why it's still hard to accept that he isn't here. Nevertheless, if we can appreciate anything from this tragedy, beyond all the cliche lines that you may be anticipating that I will repeat here, it's that sometimes there seems to be no rhyme or reason for the things that happen, especially the difficult things. But we can take comfort in the fact that we serve a God whose thoughts are not our thoughts, nor his ways like ours, and he fashions all things to work for our good, which is something that I have come to understand very well because of my time at Nyack. Before coming here, I was all too familiar with the theory of trusting God. But once I walked through the doors and started my journey towards getting a degree, I soon realized that it wasn't enough to know to trust God. I had to actually do it. And I don't know about you, but I stand here as a person who has completed their degree in biblical and theological studies, and I confess that I sometimes struggle with my faith, especially when things are difficult and I can't seem to understand what's going on around me, or why I have to answer a discussion post 3 times in order to get full credit. Raphael knows exactly what I'm talking about. I question, Lord, are you there? Am I doing the right thing? Lord, is this what you want? And I have learned that just because I am uncomfortable, that doesn't mean that God has forsaken me or that I am outside of his will. In fact, I have found that God will use all things, and not just the triumphs and celebrations, but he will use in particular, the grief, the despair, and the disappointment to refine and strengthen us in the areas that we are weak. He will even use those moments to reshape how we see him, and most of the time, how we see ourselves. Can I share something with you? Pursuing higher education was never on my radar. After I graduated high school, I got my nursing license, and I was making a cute amount of coins. And I had no homework, but I couldn't escape the fact that God had other plans, and he made sure that I knew it. So one day I got tired of running, and I gave God an ultimatum. I listed off several things that he would have to do in order for me to go back to school, and several things that would have to happen after the fact. I'll share two of those things with you now. The first thing that I audaciously told God was that he would have to take my job if he really wanted me to go back to school, because I had no plans of leaving. And in December of 2014, I was informed that come July, I would no longer be needed at the location where I worked. Then, if that wasn't clear enough, in the same span of time, I got a call from Amber Dove asking me if I was still interested in Nyack College. While this may seem insignificant to you, this was mind-blowing because I hadn't inquired about the school for 3 whole years, and I'm still not even sure if I completed an application. Now, the second thing that I told God was that if I was going back to school, then I wanted to be valedictorian. And well, here we are. And I don't say that to boast about myself, but I will definitely boast in the Lord. Why? Well, before I came to Nyack, school never quite worked for me. In middle school, I got decent grades, but they weren't remarkable, and the faculty made sure to remind me of that. Then when I went to high school, I was on the verge of dropping out many times, and even in danger of not graduating on time on more than one occasion. So when I first came to Nyack, or should I say the Lord dragged me here, I had something to prove, not just to myself, but to everyone. Yet what I didn't know was that God was going to use this time to prove something to me. Here at the college, like many of you, I've been challenged, tested, and stretched in ways unimaginable. But I have learned that God doesn't abandon you when the going gets tough. He is usually the one carrying you through. And that's what I have come to remind you of tonight. As a member of the graduating class of 2019, I know personally that you are full of 3 things: emotions, questions, and student loan debt. Nevertheless, I charge you to look back at your experience here and count the times and ways in which God has proven that he is with you. Hold fast to those moments and carry them in your arsenal for when you're being tested and tried and life is terrible and nothing seems to be going right. Remind yourself that God is with you. When you face what seems like a Goliath and the odds are stacked up against you, just like David did, remind yourself that God is with you. When you are being pressed on all sides and you want to give up, kind of like we all feel right around midterm week, tell yourself that just like you got through that, you will get through whatever it is because God is with you. Graduating class of 2019, your education here at Nyack College has prepared you to face the world head on and make a difference wherever you go. It has made me responsible and it has made you responsible. So when the excitement of graduating has worn off and all the butterflies in your stomach have sought employment elsewhere, much like many of us will have to do, and real life is coming at you full force, remind yourself that God's got you and together you got this. Thank you.